Yo, what's up, y'all? It's the MMA Analyst back at it again, here to do my preview, my predictions for Elite XC Heat, aka Elite XC Saturday Night Fights 3. You can find it on CBS on Saturday. Um, Good news for Elite XC. There's not much good news for Elite XC, but the good news right now is that they're getting better at least. The first event was a complete debauchery, just ridiculously horrible, filled with problems, and people said fights were fixed, and it was just not a good display of MMA. Um, second show, considerably better. I enjoyed it. You know what I mean? And this third show, Heat, Saturday Night Fights 3, seems to be something that could be a really good night of fights. Before I get into it, I just want to say check out my buddy's web blog if you guys want. Breaks down fights in written/blog form, and also like puts up the videos of different fights. Like the Sengoku card was up there, and other fights in the past. It's www.combatcrew.net/blog. Yeah, combatcrew.net/blog. Check it out. All right. For Saturday Night Fights 3, I'm only gonna break down the main event and then one fight on the undercard, which I hope we will get to see on TV this Saturday. All right. First, I'm gonna go right from the top to the bottom. Kimbo Slice versus Ken Shamrock. Kimbo, more hated by American MMA elitists than Akiyama in Japan. For real, Kimbo gets more hate than Bin Laden on September 12th. You know what I mean? And I'm not sure for what, really. You know what? I'm going to actually take maybe a few minutes just to address the Kimbo hate before I get into my actual predictions or my analysis. Check this out. Kimbo has never said anything that he wasn't. He's never said he was the greatest fighter of all time. He's never said he's going to be the next whatever. He's never done anything, really. He's gone on record as saying that he's a guppy in a big C. He's a beginner with lots to learn. He's just a baby in the sport. He said he respects everybody. He says that, he just really seems to be a good guy trying to make his money. He makes his television appearances, comes off quite refined. He represents himself well. If you want to be upset to the Kimbo haters, because that's who I'm talking to, if the Kimbo haters want to be upset that he's making the big bucks that he is and headlining the shows, don't be mad at Kimbo for having the appeal that millions of viewers want to see and thousands will pay for. Get mad at the businessmen that put him in the spotlight where they think they can deliver what the fans actually want. Kimbo's always done one thing. He's been Kimbo. That's it. When he was fighting on YouTube, I don't think it was to be a star. He was in a situation in his life where he wanted to get some money. He's a tough guy. He went to college. Wasn't even playing football or anything. Went to school. Something happened with that. The hurricane had happened, busted his life all up, lost everything, living in his car, and didn't resort to what a lot of people do, selling drugs and all types of other crazy stuff. He decided to beat a few people up in backyards. In a weird YouTube-ish, modern fame type way, he finds himself headlining MMA cards on CBS because people want to see the guy, the suits behind the whole thing, recognize his draw. I really don't understand what Kimbo has done wrong. A lot of people say, he's a thug, he's a this, he's a that. One of my favorite fighters and a lot of people's favorite fighter, Alexander Emelianenko, he went to jail for armed robbery. He doesn't catch any flack for his past. Chris Lieben recently, he had his situation, drunk driving, and we all know what happened with Rampage. I'm not saying the other guy should catch heat because of it. I'm just saying they don't catch heat for it, and Kimbo catches heat for stuff he really didn't even do. Like he should have the Sean Shirk attitude. Like, I'm tired of being blamed for something I didn't do. Kimbo really has done no wrong in MMA, but you've got a lot of guys in MMA, especially, that maybe they're in the game for 15 years, maybe they've been big in the game for 10 years, and they're still not making as much as Kimbo. And I understand, jealousy is a serious thing, envy, you know what I mean? But it's not Kimbo's fault. He's just doing what he can do to support his many kids and fiance. He got little Kevlar to take care of. I don't know about the name Kevlar, but hey, you know what I mean? He's trying to take care of his kids. And as for his competition, that's another thing people have a problem with. Kimbo's just in a different predicament, where it's not really, he's not able to face easier / tailor-made fighters outside of the spotlight. In boxing and MMA, whenever you start off your guy, your prospect, you don't say, "Yo, I've got this new guy. The MMA analyst Karsten. He's gonna. I wanna put him up against Andre Arlovski in his first fight. I want to put him up against Fedor in his second fight. I want to see how he'll do against Randy Couture, or I've got this middleweight. Let's see how he'll do against Anderson Silva, or you know what I mean. That's not what happens. They find fighters that they think the fighter can learn stuff from in a fight, but also win the fight. And that's what they do. And, very few fighters have faced top 10 competition in their first 4, 5, 6 bouts, you know what I mean? And Kimbo just happens to be in the spotlight. And for the first time, we are able to watch the growth of an athlete. Somebody who started out with no MMA experience, and we basically watched him all along the way. And he happens to be in the spotlight, so it looks like, oh man, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're tailor matchmaking for a new fighter. If this guy had 25 fights and was a veteran in the game, then that kind of stuff is not acceptable. But when you're talking about somebody who's had 4 fights, you know what I mean? He's fought, guys that are way above his experience level, way above his skill set. They might be a little older. They might be, a little less technical with their hands. But the fact of the matter is, Kimbo's just doing what he's doing. Really, him and Lesnar are in a similar situation. Lesnar has a background in wrestling. But when it comes to the two of them, Kimbo is a lot more humble. He's undefeated, and he hasn't been given a title shot yet. But anyways, Kimbo's training hard with Boss Rutan. He's taking things serious. He's humble. He's a good speaker. He's a possible rising star. I don't know what there is to hate. Anyways, got that out of the way. Let's just keep moving on now. Kimbo Slice, Kevin Ferguson. He is 3-0 with 2 KOs, very little MMA experience. He said it, I'm going to say it, a baby in the sport, little ground game. And in his last fight, we saw how little ground game there actually was. And he also gassed halfway through the second round, maybe even the beginning. In his first fight, Bo Cantrell basically took a dive. Not because it was fixed, I don't think. I think it's just because Bo Cantrell showed up for a paycheck. He got paid to show up, and he did, and that's all he decided to do. So he went down, everybody got pissed off at Kimbo. I don't know. It's fight number 2. He fights Tank Abbott. Everybody said Tank Abbott's going to smash him. It's going to be a stand-up war, and Kimbo can't hang with Abbott, even though they knew Abbott was like mad old and rusty and stuff. He beats Abbott, and everybody says, oh, but he's mad old and rusty. Again, Kimbo takes some slack for it. Third fight, fights James Thompson. Definitely his hardest competition. MMA veteran, maybe not the best MMA fighter, not the best all-around fighter, but, definitely more experience, been in more stuff, been in more situations, and, he beat Colossus. Again, he takes heat because Dan Murgliata stops the fight a little early and then doesn't stop the fight when James Thompson is dropping little pitter patter elbows, like Mutombo throws better elbows trying to get rebounds. Some haters even said Kimbo tapped. That was ridiculous. It was a thumbs up. It's clear as day. Anyways, he won that fight. Even more Kimbo hate, and it's just going to continue. Now he's fighting Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock's been in the game since, I think, 1966. No, really like 1993. Just a long-ass time ago. 26 wins, 22 submissions, but he's old. He's not doing well lately. If he beats Ken Shamrock, he's just gonna catch more flack because he fought an old dude. If he loses to Ken Shamrock, then they're gonna say what they would have said any given time. Kimbo's a fraud, Kimbo's a fake, Kimbo's a this, Kimbo's a that. Anyways, he is fighting Ken Shamrock, and again, no matter what happens, they're gonna hate on Kimbo. But let's talk about Ken Shamrock. 26 wins, 13 losses, 22 submissions, a pioneer of the sport. He was definitely a great fighter at one point, but recently, and by that I mean in the last 10 years, he has been on a serious slump. He's 0-5 since 2005. He's 2-8 since the year 2000. His last big win was in 1995. I personally believe he took a dive against Robert Berry in his last fight when Robert Berry threw a punch and he kind of threw his hand up to block the punch, but it didn't even touch anything, and he fell back. Like if you were gonna make a fall, but you weren't unconscious, and you kind of make sure you fall nicely and don't hurt anything, all that was there. Again, I don't think he was paid to do it. I just think he showed up, got his paycheck, whatnot, got out. Also, he's had 2 submissions since 1996. So, although he is a submission fighter, how much of his submissions will be a factor? What I hope happens, I really hope a fight between an old-timer who tries to get back to his younger submission days and a newer fighter who will try and knock out a legend. I hope these two clash in the middle and deliver a real, respectable fight. What do I think is going to happen? In all likelihood, Kimbo will come out to fight. Shamrock will go down by the slightest of shots. Again, not because he was ordered to, not because it's a fix, but because he wants the paycheck. I don't think Ken is really in it for the sport anymore, and I'm not trying to disrespect the guy's credibility or question the guy's credibility. It's just that there are certain types of mindsets where they would rather be in the news for anything, like a celebrity, like Britney Spears type celebrity, where like she'll drop her baby on the floor to be in the news. You know what I mean? Like somebody who will like get in a dumb marriage and just do dumb stuff just to be on television, just to be in the papers, rather than not being in the papers. And I think Ken Shamrock, he's definitely high on himself, possibly like, I don't know. He's old, he hasn't been doing well at all, and now he's fighting Kimbo. I just don't see him coming out here and giving it 150%. I hope he does. Believe me, I hope I'm wrong. I'm not saying I hope Kimbo loses. I'm not saying I hope Ken Shamrock loses. But I just want there to be a respectable match. If that happens or if it doesn't happen, I believe regardless, it will be Kimbo by first round knockout. If Kimbo beats Ken and wins more fights, by the way, and if Elite XC falls, which Dana White has said they would, and their own slips, their own like bankruptcy type situation, it's very well known. I think Dana White will definitely pick up Kimbo in an instant. Dana White signed Sean Gannon for beating Kimbo in a street fight, and if he'd sign, a guy who beat Kimbo when Kimbo wasn't half as popular as he is today, he'll definitely sign Kimbo. And they actually said he would sign Kimbo if he wanted to come to the UFC and fight some of the top guys. But until then, enjoy the Kimbo hate. It's all over the place, from the top down to the poorest fighter, down to the toughest internet warrior. All right, on to fight number 2. Jake Shields versus Paul Daly. This is gonna be a real good fight. Jake Shields, 21-4, Elite XC's current welterweight champion. He's got wins over Nick Thompson, Mike Powell, BJ Penn's coach Verissimo, Carlos Condit, Yushin Okami, Hayato Mahasakurai, and he had a draw with Masaki. Jake Shields, he's been fighting since 1999. He's ranked number 6 in the welterweight in the world. He's got 8 submissions out of his 21 fights. Trains at Cesar Gracie in San Francisco. Dude is still only 29 years old. He's a prospect. He's a champion already. He's got mad skills. Recently, he was talking all types of dumb stuff. He was calling Aoki a coward and calling out GSP. Like, you know you can't fight GSP right now. He's in the UFC. You're in Elite XC. Come on now, quit that. And calling Aoki a coward, I don't even know what that's all about. But it doesn't change the fact that Shields is a great fighter. He just beat Thompson in like 1 minute and 3 seconds by submission. He's on a 10-fight winning streak. He's got upward potential galore. And he's looking to make a statement against a top contender and a very exciting guy in Paul Semtex Daly. Paul Daly, 18-6, 13 knockouts. He pulled a Jay-Z retirement last year. Basically, I'm going to retire. I'm done from the game. I've done my thing. And then, a few months later, he's fighting again. You know what I mean? He took less time in his retirement. He took less time off than, certain dudes in the UFC have taken off because they were the champion and waiting for a TV show. So much for that retirement. I'm personally happy. I was upset when I heard he was going to retire. I didn't believe it, but who knows? Thank God that I was right and that he changed his mind. He's an amazing striker. He's on a 6-fight winning streak. The majority of his losses, however, have come by submission, and that's going to be the key to the fight. By the way, take a look at some Paul Semtex Daly highlights if you want to see some nice striking. This guy's a loose cannon, and again, he's one of the most exciting fighters to watch in MMA. But this is going to go down to the ground at some point. Shields is not the dude in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but he is a Cesar Gracie black belt, and that is far, far more than enough to submit Paul Daly. When this fight gets to the ground, it is probably going to be over. Shields can strike, but he's not the kind of striker that Daly is. At welterweight, I would say he's top 10 on the feet. But on the ground, he'll be at a great disadvantage. If Shield comes into the fight with the game plan to see how things go on the feet, and then move from there depending on if it's going the way he wants it to go, he could get finished on the feet and surprised and never get a chance to actually win this fight. But I personally think he's going to come to the fight with the intentions to take this to the ground and submit Daly, and that's what I think is going to happen in the first round and his first defense of the Elite XC welterweight belt. Jake Shields by submission, first round. Next fight, nobody saw this coming. At least I didn't see it coming. Andre Arlovski on CBS. That's not good for the UFC. Against Roy Nelson. I guess they had tried to get Andre Arlovski versus Josh Barnett, which would have been UFC heavyweight champion former versus UFC former heavyweight champion. That would have been crazy. That would have been a fight I really wanted to see, but I'll do it this one. Again, to the Elite XC haters now, the first Elite XC, yes, the CBS card was a long time ago in theory. It was straight doo-doo. But with a card like this here, Daly versus Shields, Arlovski versus Nelson, Haver Murillo Ninja Hua, Christina Santos, Gina Carano, and then of course the main event was just to bring the hype. I'm not gonna lie, I am I am a little bit hyped for this night of fights. Saturday night, you will find me at home watching TV, cheering for all my dudes, because this is a good card, in my opinion. Andre Arlovski, 14 wins, 5 losses, 10 wins by knockout. 4-fight winning streak. And he was definitely a reinvigorated Arlovski in his last fight at Affliction. He did look very lackluster in a couple showings before that, but the former UFC heavyweight champion seems to be back and probably better than ever. He's popular. He's exciting to watch. Of course, he's got the KO power, pretty good ground game skills, and he's going to be free on TV on CBS. Really, with Freddie Roach as his boxing trainer, I can only see Arlovski getting better. He's even supposedly looking for professional fights, boxing matches. So that's another thing to look forward to. To think that this fight is actually the third card down, like there's 2 fights after this, it's not the main event, it's not even the co-main event. That's kind of crazy. That just goes to show the kind of star power and heat that these guys are really coming with. No pun intended. I did not mean to say heat like that. Anyways, Arlovski, he's beat Verdum, he's beat Tim Sylvia, he's beat Ben Rothwell, Jake O'Brien, Buentello, Vladimir Medashenko, and Roman Zensov. And next, he will be looking to take out IFL heavyweight champion Roy Big Country Nelson. 13 wins, 2 losses. Recently, the UFC told him he needs to fix his figure. I thought that was ridiculous, and obviously so did Roy Nelson, as he is now fighting Arlovski for Elite XC on CBS. He's on a 5-fight winning streak. His last was over Brad Imes and Fabio Scherner. He hasn't lost since his bout with Ben Rothwell. Now, I'm not going to lie. I still can't get over how bad Roy Nelson looked in his Bodog fight against Josh Curran, where he lost in a very sloppy, ugly decision. But he's slowly winning me over. He's a pretty damn good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. He's got KO power. He's training out of Lion's Den in Vegas, and I think he'll be a good test for Arlovski. But the situation is this. Arlovski is quicker, he's stronger, he's younger, and he'll likely take this fight. I think if Nelson will try and keep this on the feet, Arlovski will oblige, and I think he'll be like, you know what, I don't like where this fight's going, let's try and take this to the ground. But by then, he's not going to be able to do so with effectiveness. I think he'll maybe even gas. And in the third round, I see Arlovski closing this out with a TKO. All right, Gina Carano versus Kobold. All right, Kobold, chick fight? No, just playing. Kobold is a vet in women's MMA. She was on a 17-fight unbeaten streak. She was undefeated from 2002 to 2007, 16-0. And 1. Before she lost arguably to the best female fighter out there, Tara LaRosa. Kobold has 8 submission victories, 6 KO victories. She's a well-rounded fighter. After losing to LaRosa, she then lost to Kedzie, who Carano has recently beat. After the second straight loss, she hasn't really fought since 2007. But she claims that it's because Bodog screwed her over, made her sit out her contract, and she couldn't take other fights. She said that she wasn't retired or wasn't taking a break. She was just kind of forced to wait out her contract. She looks to do what no other female has been able to do, and that is to defeat the face of women's MMA, Gina Carano. Gina Carano is 6-0 with 3 KOs and 1 submission. Crush from American Gladiator is the center of the women's MMA universe. She trains at Extreme Couture. She's 26 and has basically found the amount of stardom you can as a female MMA fighter. Now, many have questioned her abilities in the Tanya Evinger fight. They were wondering if she could hang with Tanya on the ground. She ended up submitting Tanya. In her last fight, she won over Caitlin Young in a destructive doctor stoppage. And again, also, there's a question from a lot of people about whether or not she's being protected by Elite XC, as they believe a lot of Elite XC's biggest stars are being protected. Cobalt will be Gina's most seasoned competitor. She will likely pose the greatest threat beside Evinger in Carano's short MMA career. Cobalt has had a year and a bit of a layoff, and she was rumored to be 20 pounds overweight last week. That's a lot for her weight class and gender. Men lose pounds easier than women, and the smaller you are, the harder it is for you to lose weight. So if 1 week before the fight you're weighing 20 extra pounds, but you only weigh 160, that's a big difference, especially if you're female. I can't believe she'll make weight, which might even the score, since Carano hasn't made weight yet for Elite XC. And I also think it will affect her stamina and speed at whatever weight she comes in. I think if Cobalt does pose a great threat to Carano, it will rapidly disappear as the fight goes on. And I think Carano will get the stoppage in the third round. Possibly the end of the second, but if it does get to the third round, then I don't think it's going to get to the end of the fight. All right. And the last on the main event card, Benji Radek versus Murillo Ninja Hua. Benji Radek, 17-4, 15 wins by knockout. He spent 2007 in the IFL. He fought 6 times and he won 5 of the fights. He lost his last fight to Matt Horwitz. In his career, he's beat Gerald Harris, who's probably best known for his stint on The Ultimate Fighter. He beat Nick Serra back in his UFC days. And also, while in the UFC, he lost to Sean Shirk. He also has a brutal broken jaw loss to Chris Lieben when they weren't in the UFC. Radek has good wrestling background. He likes to throw down. He's not a top guy, but he has been in the game since 2001, and some actually say his injuries are what's actually held him back the most. I believe right now what's holding him back the most is trying to get through Murillo Ninja Hua. Brother of Shogun Hua, former Elite XC middleweight champion, former shoot box representative / fighter, currently fighting out of Brazil and training with UDL, the University of Fighting, a school he, his brother, and the Amadi brothers started, Andre Dida and Mauricio Veo. He's a Pride veteran where he faced top competition over and over again. He fought and lost to Dan Henderson, Ricardo Arona, Kevin Randleman, Sergey Karatanov, Paulo Filo, Dennis Kang, and Quentin Rampage Jackson in a fight that was just bad decision, bad judging at its peak. Quentin Rampage Jackson tried to give Ninja the trophy after. Commentators, it was Bas Rutten and maybe Mauro Ranello. They were going crazy about just what are these guys seeing. But anyways, he went 6-7 in Pride, but again, his competition was fierce and it was top notch. He was also very young at the time. Even now, Murillo is only 28 years old. He's got 6 KOs and 8 submissions. He's good wherever the fight goes, and he should have the the significant advantage over Benji Radek. If he can avoid Benji Radek's one-shot KO blow, that Radek is definitely going to be looking to land the whole fight. I see Ninja winning this fight by submission in round 2. That's a pretty good main card if you ask me. The fight that I wanted to see the most, to be completely honest, out of all the fighters on this card, if you could put any two together, the fight that I would have liked to see the most would have been Christina Cyborg Santos versus Gina Carano. Am I a fan of women's MMA? I think I'm a fan of all MMA, all good MMA. And this would have been a good MMA match. A very, very good test for two new upcoming stars. I think that they're kind of waiting to put this fight together for a later period in time where Christina Cyborg Santos has maybe bigger name, some more exposure, and when they're ready to let Gina Carano really get put through the fire. So Santos is actually going to take on Takahashi, and I think she will likely crush Takahashi, who is an MMA vet and also very great with submissions. But I think Santos will be able to weather the storm and pull out a brutal and likely bloody win. Next event, though, I want to see Carano vs. Cyborg. I want to see Eddie Alvarez versus Nick Diaz for the championships, because they stripped KJ Noons. Thank God, because that dude is out of control, ridiculous, acting foolish. I don't know what's in his head. I don't know the whole picture, but if they want to put you on TV, headlining the card, or up there on the card, they want to pay you, and you're the champion anyways, and they want you to fight a guy you already beat, I don't see what the problem is. Fight the fight. Instead, you're sitting at home, you'll be watching this somewhere else. It doesn't make any sense to me. You're not making the money. You're not helping your name out. You're not helping your company out. You're not helping anybody out. And now you've lost the belt, and you've got a boxing career that is about as good as Mike Tyson's MMA career. It's pretty much non-existent. Anyways, by the way, I hope Christina Santos's fight goes better than her husband's. At Sengoku, he had a Shogun situation, a Shogun Coleman situation. Dude went for the takedown. He put his arm out to base and just snapped it and just rolled over like, it was nasty. I hope my arm never breaks that easy. I don't know. Drink milk. It does the body good. And I'll be back for the next event. And MMA, y'all, it's important. Peace.